Hey, Bear Weight Nation. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic today. You're probably clicking on this link because you're trying to figure out how to build big arms. Aren't we all? I've been trying to figure that out for years, actually. I've kind of gotten a routine that's been working for me for the last, I'd say, 2 years or so. I've kind of gotten into a routine that's been building my arms pretty sizable. And I'm going to be going over Dr. Mike's top 10 tips and tricks. Some of the things I agree with, some of the things I don't. And of course, I'm going to be bringing in some of the stuff I do, like my workouts and things like that, so you guys can see maybe this will help you out, because it's actually simpler than you think. A lot of people make this more complicated than it should, and I find for myself at least, and now this is not going to work for everyone, you know, my routines, what Dr. Mike does may not always work for everyone, but I find that this may open some ideas to maybe train a little different. So that's the idea here. Maybe look at some ways that are training that's kind of preventing you from developing the size, and more importantly, in my opinion, it's not always about the size, it's about the strength. It's the strength of those tendons. So let's get into this. Let's see what he's going to be selling us now. So
stop right now.
All right, guys, we're already getting into the snake oil talk. No, I'm just kidding, guys. No, I love watching Dr. Mike. He's got a lot of great information. I've been enjoying his videos for the last couple of years now, and so, but like I was saying before, there's some things that I disagree in here, so we'll go over that too.
So here they are. I'm going to talk about them in depth with you. First, strict technique. Strict technique allows you to target the muscle that you want, not target and fatigue other muscles that are irrelevant, and keep you safe in your joints and connective tissues, plug it along really good. So anytime you say you want big arms, you better have good technique on your curl.
I agree with that so much. The problem I see when I go to the gym a lot of times is that people are so focused on how much weight they're moving. I go to a really big power lifter gym, so a lot of these guys in there, they're just trying to pull the iron up, and I go, guys, it's not just about pulling the iron. Don't get me wrong. There's a point when you can give a little bit on your technique, which you'll see in my video here, but I also say, you got to find that, you got to build that foundation. If you don't build that foundation, what's going to happen is you're going to tear a tendon, you're going to tear a bicep, you're going to stress something out, and you may not even tear your, I've pulled stuff in my back just trying to pick up weight off the floor, like, I mean, just trying to do curls off the, you know, pick the curl bar off the floor, I should say, and then just start getting up there, and I pull my lower back, you know. It's because you're trying to focus on weight, and that was when I did in my youth. Instead, nowadays, I focus on form, building a strong foundation, and keep building that foundation where I can actually pick up a heavy iron, and I'm successful at it, and I don't feel like I'm going to tear that tendon or anything like that. So let's continue.
Curls, and your extensions, and your squat pressures, the whole bit. If you're doing some stupid bullshit,
yep,
you're like, I want big arms, just gotta go hard.
Seen it too many times. I don't care for it. I'm going to continue to do very solid, strict movements. So as you can see right here, this is what I'm talking about. When I get into it, you know, I already did it. I did a couple warm-up sets before this, but I'm just trying to show you guys, this is so important, especially on the lower weights. Get into a good position. As you can see, my tricep extends out. You know, I want it all the way down, and I'm trying to pull. And then in the early stages, I want to kind of warm up the muscle, slowly moving up and down. That's the goal. And as you can see, every set I do is going to be 3 reps. 3 reps works best for me. And like I said, I've been training for almost 2 decades, and I build size like no other with just this. So just be aware of that. Like, this is a very specific type of training that I have found, and it's potentially unlocked everything for me for developing strength, size, and like endurance. So because there's so many sets I do, I'm building that endurance. My heart's always pounding. So as you can see right here, once again, it's all about control. Everything, you know, the number one rule I have in my head anytime I'm lifting weights, it's going to be I control the weight doesn't control me. That is the number one thing that has saved me injury after injury after injury, especially after I injured myself really bad in my youth. I have to be more aware of my, you know, what I'm doing more than ever before, but at the same time, I've gotten so much stronger because of it. So let's carry on, and we'll go over the rule number 2, I guess. Like I said, I'm going to have them broken down a couple times as we're going through this video. So
deep stretches. If
deep stretch.
Biceps, and you're able to do an incline curl, your biceps are behind your body. If you're doing triceps, at the very top of the push down, let the bar come up and really stretch the back of your tricep. That is going to cause more muscle growth than not. So part of good technique is to have a deep stretch incorporated kind of as often as possible in your exercises. Rule number 3.
Absolutely, guys. Deep, deep stretch. It's about full range of motion. I know that sounds quirky to say, and it sounds simple to say, but it's about full range of motion. As you can see, I'm going to the very top. Now, I know a lot of people are going to get all controversial about this, and they go, "Oh, you're stopping at the top." Well, first off, it's a lot of weight. Number 2, and I'm preparing my muscles for the the deload process, or the basically let the bar down. And my goal is, when I get up there, I'm mentally preparing the muscles, and I'm trying to control the weight down. Now, there's going to get to a point where it's going to be very hard to control, and it's just, if I try to control it, I'm going to wreck something. So it's more about pulling up than letting down. But I'm trying to control as much as I can on the way down. But the point is I find people that kind of do this half, like this stuff, and I'm like, you got to let that muscle extend. Let it fully stretch out. Let that thing pull everything loose, and your tricep should lock out. Like when I'm doing a curl bar, I feel my tricep lock, and then I come back up. So and it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder when you do that versus just kind of half curling. So okay, let's carry on. So as you can see, I'm going to do 3 reps here. That is my goal, is 3 every time, and it's because 1, I'm developing strength. Number 2, I'm getting endurance. And of course, I'm getting a good foundation of form. So like every set I do is 3. It's 3, 3, 3. But I do a lot of sets. So
this best stimulus to fatigue ratio to you. What does that mean? You want to try sets of 5 to 10 for arms. You want to try sets of 10 to 20 for arms. You want to try sets of 20 to 30 reps, close to failure, for arms. Depending on your genetics and your training history and the difference between your biceps and your triceps, some of those may be bigger winners than others on the stimulus to fatigue ratio, which means what? You might try doing curls for sets of 8, right? 5 to 10 rep range. And you notice that like your elbows kind of hurt. It's really hard, systemic.
So what he's talking about here is something I've tried for many, many years. I've done the 20 rep range, I've done the 10 rep range, I've done the 5 rep range, I've even done the 8 rep range. I've tried all those different rep ranges and, different sets, different styles. And I never really got like a really strong stimulus in my muscles. I never felt like things were growing. And matter of fact, I didn't really feel like injuries were coming on. I didn't really feel any of that. But I felt there wasn't growth. And so when I switched, I said this is about 5 years ago when I started doing like 3 serious rep ranges. So when I started doing about 3 rep ranges, and this was when I was kind of mixing in different stuff. I started, my muscles just started growing fast, and like I felt stronger, and I was just like, okay, something's happening here. And what I realized at the end of it was that I developed the best way when I focus on low reps, more sets. That's what I find was the best stimulus for me. For whatever reason, my genetics just play that way. And so, like I said, try different sets, different reps. Some people respond better with just a higher volume. I just never found myself responding, and I would cook myself to get to those high volumes. I just never felt it nearly as much as when I started lifting heavy. And so we'll kind of hop back into this.
When you lift that much weight, you don't really get a pump or a big stretch in your bicep. It just feels like you're just like training elbows at that point. Fuck that. And you might think the barbell curl is just not for me, but hold on a second. Try sets of 10 to 20 reps. Doing sets of 15-ish reps, you might realize, holy shit, my elbows feel pretty good. And my biceps are getting crazy pumps and they get sore for a few days. I like it. Then you might try sets of 20 to 30 on that barbell curl exercise and realizing your joints feel fine, but the biceps never really get pumped. They just get really tired. You're like, man, fuck this 25 rep bullshit. Man. Like, I'm just getting tired.
That's exactly how I felt. I just didn't feel it. Just fatigue. No growth. No size.
If you don't limit yourself to rep ranges, and when you try any tricep or bicep exercises, you experiment with a wide swath of rep ranges, you're gonna find dependable answers. And it's gonna lead to one of 2 things. One, for certain exercises, certain rep ranges you know for you work better than others, and then you stick to them, and then you have better gains. Or, lucky you find out that everything's just a little different, but everything works well. And then, hey, great, use all the rep ranges you want, no big deal. You just found all winners. For most people, it's going to be more of that first scenario where they realize for some exercises, this rep range is the best, the other two rep ranges aren't.
Exactly. So as you can see here, everyone figures out their rep range in due time, and it's going to take a while, so don't feel rushed to figure that out, but experiment a little bit, as you go on with your, training cycles and everything else. This is going to take, this, like I said, this took me almost 10 years, a decade to kind of start getting an idea. And as you can see right here, 3 reps, heavy sets. That's my focus. And that it's simple. And, I don't know why people make this so complicated a lot of times. I find that people want to make this like more than it should have to be. It should just be simple. Like nothing, it shouldn't be a complicated scenario where you have to kind of go, oh, okay, I got to put this, I got to calculate this. What I find is just listen to your body. Just listen to your body. If your body's telling you you can handle more weight, start doing it. But don't sacrifice your form. That's the key though. Don't sacrifice your form. Now, as you're going to see in here, when I start getting really heavy on the next, starting getting heavy, yeah, I'm going to start giving a little bit because, one, I'm getting used to, it's a heavy amount of weight. And so I'm kind of giving a little bit, but not to the point where I'm going to sacrifice it, or sacrifice my body and tear something. There's a point where you hit that 110% overload, and then you can end up, tearing a tendon or a ligament or, a joint or anything like that. So as you can see, so we'll continue on. So yeah, it wasn't, this is starting to feel a little bit heavy, but I'm trying to control that weight. Like I said, I've never measured my biceps, so I can't tell you the exact size of my biceps, but I know I'm bigger than average.
Multiple effective variations rather than optimal movements. Right there now, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on all social media, there are people Googling something they shouldn't be Googling. They're asking ChatGPT something they shouldn't be asking. What's the best movement for arms? What's the best bicep exercise? I get asked this in my fucking messages and in my comments on my posts.
100% agree with them on this.
Why barbell curl versus easy bar, Mike? It's a very innocent question, but it's asked. Once it's asked, once it leaves the user's mouth or keyboard, it's already dead on arrival. Because there is no such thing as the best movement for muscle. It simply doesn't exist, and I can tell you exactly why. Even if you take a movement that is biomechanically arranged to seem like it's the best, and for the first few weeks or months you're using it, it really is the best, at some point there's a process called staleness, where just doing the same shit over and over, your body's like, fuck this, I'm not growing from this.
Agreed. So something I noticed, yes, and I do the same routine over and over again, but I notice I'm developing, and the reason why I notice I'm developing is because I'm trying to push through those barriers. What I find is that most people will do a routine, especially, and I can't speak on behalf on the high rep range anymore. I just noticed that I just never could really hit that. I would get a lot of endurance strength out of it. That's the one thing I did notice. My pull-ups were high, things like that were high. But like when it came to strength, power, I just didn't have it because it wasn't my focus. So what I focus in on when I'm doing those sets, I'm trying to, I've noticed that I'm getting stronger with and more efficient with each technique. So what I mean by that is like when I'm doing the curl, like when I'm doing more than just the 45-pound heights, I'm noticing I'm able to control the weight even better on the way down. Because at first I would have to kind of like just let it go down because it was just felt so heavy. But now I'm noticing I'm actually controlling the weight. And because I'm mentally focused on just holding the weight, I want to hold that weight. And I notice like everything, it doesn't feel like a pump. It just feels like, wow, my arm hurts. like a good, okay, I know I did the work. I can feel it. And every time I come back, I get stronger. Every time I go back to the gym, I am stronger. I'm stronger at my deadlifts, my squats, my bench. Everything is getting stronger each and every time. The only limiting factor that makes me weaker is if I don't eat enough. If I don't eat enough, that's when things start getting this, and he's going to talk about this in here. You got to make sure you eat all the time. Like that's a big thing. If you're not growing, it may not be because you're training. It may just because you're not putting enough in your mouth, and not just what you're putting. It's not just about how much you're putting in your mouth. It's like what you're putting in your mouth. Are you putting enough protein in? I had to bump up my protein intake because I started getting stronger to a point where my body was cannibalizing a lot of muscle, and I was like, okay, I'm losing a little bit of strength because I'm not eating enough. And then when I ate enough, like I started growing again. I just bulked up. I just boop, once again. So just kind of giving you some heads up on some of the things that I've learned through my years of training that can maybe help you and maybe help to fine tune those things you're trying to get through, and those what's the word I'm looking for? Like just big hurdles, more or less. So
anymore. You know what? I'm gonna turn up some joint pain for this motherfucker. Throw some dice in this bitch face.
I did get tendonitis. I will say that. As you've probably seen, but my tendonitis is damn near gone, right through here. And I've been giving updates on BPC 157, TB 500. That has definitely helped big time.
I'm saying, you're like, dude, it's not working like it used to, and it feels like shit. But it's the best. The fuck am I supposed to do? Like, how do I do something worse? But it's not worse. You try another also effective variant, because there are multiple exercises that are very good. And now, because it's not stale, because you haven't been using it a few months, it's going to be an incredible stimulus with very low fatigue for your biceps. And now it's the best at life. We got our effective exercises, we got strict technique, we got deep stretches, we've tried all the rep ranges, we know it works for us.
Oh, this is a big one. This
you gotta train arms first
is one of my
early and any
like
session of the
like
week in which you
foundations within my pyramid.
I don't know how many times this has happened to me, but it seems like dozens. You train, you walk into the gym, you always know some people at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Frank, he's great. Or that guy, I don't know his name, but I've talked to him for 2 years in the fucking locker room. And they'll tell you shit. You guys know how it is. People in the gym will tell you shit you never asked for. Like, yeah, man, how you doing? Like, pretty good. November, it's fucking cold, am I right? Like, yeah, man, it's fucking brutal. Yeah. Like, yeah, just gotta bring these arms up, And you're like, oh, very well. Why are you telling me this? Of course, you're not a dick like me, so you don't say things like that. You go, dope, man, arm season, baby, every fucking day out here. You're like, yep. And then you watch them do their workout. They start with wide grip bench. Then they go to flies. Then they go to close grip bench. Then they go to dips. And then do 2 drop sets of rope pushdowns. And they're like, that's it, man. Arms. You're like, what? But you did the tricep exercise last. Your chest was super exhausted and front delts were totally cooked. You said you wanted arms as the most important thing in your program. You did them with the least energy at the very tail end of the workout, where you're not only physically drained, but psychologically more or less checked the fuck out.
So that's a big one, guys. When I go to the gym myself, I focus on the most important movement first. So I have a three-week rotation where I do deadlifts, squats, front squats. And then with my arms, it's biceps, triceps. Then it's going to be overhead pressing. And then it's going to be benching. Those are like my 3 big categories. And so what I do when it comes into bench day, I go straight to the bench. That's the most important primary movement. It's like my arms. What's the most important primary movement? My arms. So I go do my, in this case, the curl bar. I always like starting with the curl bar. Or I do my triceps and I start with skull crushers, like, laying down skull crushers where you're, extending all the way out with a little arch to it. And then you're bringing that bar down with a curl bar, I'll make another video on that one too. But that's what I'm focusing on. And then I come back to, and then I'm doing hammer curls, And the only thing that and he'll explain here in a little bit, there's something I'll talk about, what I do to finish up everything. But I see so many people go to the gym and they're just kind of wandering around and they're just doing this and doing that. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, if you're focused on building your biceps, you should be tearing the crap out of them. You need to be like, that's what you need to be focused on, lifting heavy with those arms to build the size up. And so that's something I notice a lot of people do. And it's unfortunate. So as you can see right here, starting to get a little heavy, 185 pounds. Not everyone can do that. Not saying there's a lot of people can, but there's a lot of people can't. But it started getting heavy, This is what I'm saying. As you can see, like I was getting my biceps been giving me a little problem. So this is where I was this was recorded a couple weeks ago. So, but the point I'm trying to say, as I'm lifting, is I'm focused on big weight. I'm focused on just tearing that muscle up. I'm focused on lifting iron to the point where I exhaust that muscle to basically be useless. By the time I leave the gym, I don't want to have to be like, I want them feeling it. I want them not, all day long, I'm just like, okay, I can feel like when I'm picking up stuff, it's like, ooh. That's kind of how I like to train, but not a painful. It's like a stretched feeling. So that's kind of where I'm focusing in on. But yeah, And of course, is my rule of thumb, you should always give up form at the top dead end of your set. That's it. You know, when you start getting to that heavier weight, you can give a little bit, and that's my attitude, just a hair. But you don't want to just give up your entire form.
It's the mirror image of pre-exhaust. What the fuck do I mean by that? If you start your bicep day with barbell curls, and then after that you do cable curls, you might be in a position where some underhand pull-ups or pull-downs as the last exercise, your biceps are not the limiting factor. And because you're so in touch with them, your mind-muscle connection with them is maximum. So if you're a person that can do like 20 underhand pull-ups regularly, after 2 bicep exercises, you might only be able to do 10. But every single rep cooks your biceps off the bone. By pre-exhausting biceps with their isolation movements, the post-exhaust compound movement is now just another bicep movement. So it multiplies your variation. It allows you to target the biceps again, but with a movement that's typically enough. Rule number 7.
So it's interesting he says that. Well, my last thing I do, so I do on my bicep tricep days, I do barbell curl, skull crutches curl. I have a pretty set routine, and because I find this just helps, it works the crap out of my arms. And then I do hammer curls, and then I do cable lats, pull downs, and with good form, good technique. And the last thing I actually do, and this might be controversial because I'm working on developing my chest, so I have to put a little bit more effort in my chest to make it bigger. So I actually focus on machine flies. And why do I do that? Well, one, it's not just about, doing this motion. It's about static. I'm kind of in a more of a static move because one, you have to hold everything, especially your biceps, and they have to hold. And when you're doing that, your biceps have to work harder, your triceps have to work. Everything has to kind of work together. And the idea for me is I'm trying to get both the muscles to work at the same time, and also just save a little time because I do run out of time at the gym sometimes, and so I find that also kind of alleviates some of that stress of, I got to work or something like that. So that's something I like to do, and I find it works great because I can feel it in my biceps. By the time I get done, holy crap, my biceps are boop, boop, boop. They're pumped up. So that's something I do. May not work for you, but maybe some recommendations on something you can add into there after you get done through, a bicep or tricep workout.
This is another really, really big one. I guess these are all big, but some of them are a bit more nuanced. Train your arms as often as they recover. Well, hold on. What does recover mean? It means your arms are no longer sore, they're no longer tired, and your rep and load performance is typical or better than typical. Let's say normally you can curl 50 pounds, barbell curl 50 pounds for 10 reps. And then after that, for like a couple days, your biceps will feel tense and tight, and a little sore, a little kind of weak. And if you try to come in the next day and curl, you might get 50 pounds for like 7 reps. It's not really much of an overload. Actually regressing, maybe I'm training a little too often. But if you come back 2 or 3 days later, you can do 50 for 10 or even 11 reps, and your biceps are completely healed. Like someone's like, hey, you ready to train arms? You're like, dude, fuck, absolutely ready. I'm fucking healed. And you know when you're healed. You've got energy, your muscles feel nice.
Yeah, so what I train is, I honestly do my bicep once every like 3 weeks. I know that's going to be controversial, big time, but I'm also dealing with tendon issues too, and so I've been trying to recover those, and I'm damn near 100. With that being said, so the reason I'm doing that is, one, I'm trying to maximize my tendon growth because a lot of people don't stop to think about their tendons. They are so focused on, I got to build the biggest muscle possible, and I'm like, well, yeah, you can build your muscle, and your muscle recovers a hell of a lot quicker than your joints and your tendons, because those when those get damaged or injured, the recovery time is longer. So because of my style of training, it's so aggressive on my joints and tendons, I want to try to give that a full recovery. And because of that, my joints are strong as iron. I don't really have too many joint problems. My back has gotten incredibly strong because I give it time to fully recover. I let the muscles, and not just the muscles I'm saying but the bones and those ligaments all get stronger and tighter. And so that's one of the things, that's why I kind of throw the wrench at most people's training style, because I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but you're going to tear those things up. And if you tear those down, well, it doesn't matter how big your muscle is. It's not going to matter. Ronnie Coleman, great example. The guy was strong, is incredibly strong, but he overtrained. He beat himself up because of all that, and he never let his joints fully recover and his back recover. And because of that, I mean, now he's walking with a cane. I don't want to be in my 60s, walking with a cane. So I'm more importantly trying to focus on developing things that are going to be for my long-term success in terms of being able to take care of myself when I'm older. And that's kind of why I find the balance between health and strength, and not trying to just throw the throttle and just throw it at the wall. I gotta have the biggest biceps. Okay, that's great, but what's the point of having that if your arm doesn't work anymore? So just kind of throwing that out there, just kind of giving, maybe that will open your mind up to some things. But as you can see, this is my last set here. I normally do 2 plates, but I've been backing off just to get that arm recovered. I'll be starting to get back up to 2 plates again. Normally have 2 45-pound plates on there. So, a little bit of struggle, but it didn't feel terrible when I lifted it. It didn't feel like I was going to tear something. If I went higher than this, yeah, I'd feel like something's going to give, because my back would just be like, oh, my arms, my back is just, ugh. So, but yeah, no, this is kind of like what I'm trying to talk about, is more or less the idea of challenging yourself for strength and form and technique. And that's where I'm kind of, trying to target in with people.
But you train them once a week. I'm going to assume that it takes your arms an entire week to recover, which is bullshit in almost every case. Most people's arms can recover from hard workouts, 1 to 3 days later. Which means if you are a fast recovering individual and you're not crazy doing a ton of volume workout, you might be able to train your arms 4 times a week. And someone's like, dude, really, arms 4 times a week? Like, why? Like, because I recovered every day.
I agree with that statement if you have a higher rep range. I don't agree with it if you're going to be doing heavy weight.
On the other hand, if it takes,
you're not going to deadlift 3 times a week with maximum load. I never would, let alone my arms.
Then I'm going to train them twice a week. But I'm sure as shit not spending any time where I could have been training arms, not training arms. So training arms as often as they recover means you do 2 things to do. 1, determine how quickly your arms recover.
Yep.
If it's every other day, well, fuck,
figure that out, guys. Figure out how quickly you recover, and then determine based on that recovery whether or not you should continue pushing. But you may find yourself having to do things that may put yourself on that line too. And I've been there, and that's just part of the gym life. You're going to have to experiment, and you may get injured. There's no risk no reward without risk, I should say. So just be aware of that.
I train arms like 4 times a week. Then you do. You're like, oh fuck, I don't know how serious I am about arm size.
A lot of people aren't. So
backtracking now. So if you're really serious about training arms, you train them when they recover, which is, by the way, true for every single other muscle.
But yeah, guys, so hopefully that's some good information for you. I hope to fill that gap in, that maybe you're trying to figure something else out, or you're trying to be like, oh, how to train right, or what should I do, or I hear this guy, that guy, and this. This is just more ideas or more thoughts for you guys to maybe kind of incorporate with your training. But either way, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Do like and subscribe. I do appreciate any comments in the comment section down below, just so I can kind of stay in touch with anyone who's trying to maybe break through a PR or a personal best for themselves. So either way, guys, you guys take care. Bear Weight Nation out.